Hello and welcome to Monkey Farts. Today's video we're going to talk about some of the most ridiculous lawsuits ever filed. These 10 cases might sound absurd, but they're all based on real events that made their way through the courts. So buckle up, and let's dive into the world of ridiculous lawsuits. Liebeck vs. McDonald's. Our first case is a classic. Liebeck vs. McDonald's, a lawsuit that made headlines in the 1990s and is often cited as one of the quintessential examples of a frivolous lawsuit. In 1992, Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old woman, sued McDonald's after spilling hot coffee on herself and suffering severe burns. The case was widely portrayed as a woman trying to take advantage of the legal system, but the facts of the case are more complicated than the popular narrative suggests. The coffee that Liebeck spilled on herself was served at a temperature of around 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which was significantly hotter than coffee served by other fast food chains. For example, Liebeck suffered third-degree burns that required skin grafts, and evidence showed that McDonald's had received numerous complaints about the temperature of its coffee. Despite the popular portrayal of the case, Liebeck's lawsuit was not without merit. She suffered serious burns and was seeking compensation for her medical expenses. In the end, the case was settled out of court, but it remains one of the most well-known examples of a frivolous lawsuit. Newton vs. God. Our next case is Newton vs. God, a lawsuit filed by a man who sued the Almighty for $5 million. In 2007, Anthony Newton filed a lawsuit against God, alleging that God had failed to prevent earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters, causing him emotional distress. Newton filed the lawsuit pro se, meaning he represented himself without an attorney. The case was dismissed by the courts, which ruled that God was immune from lawsuits. The case was widely criticized as absurd, but it highlights the idea that some people will go to extreme lengths to work the system. Kaufman vs. Walt Disney Co. Our next case is Kaufman vs. Walt Disney Co., a lawsuit filed by a man who sued Disney for $1 million over the company's use of Mickey Mouse and Goofy. In 2002, a man sued Disney for causing him emotional distress, alleging that the characters' antics were too distracting and caused him headaches, nausea, and dizziness. The case was dismissed citing that it's Disney, they got lawyers. Rosen vs. Ciba Geigy Corp. Our next case is Rosen vs. Ciba Geigy Corp., a lawsuit filed by a woman who sued a chemical company over a broken coffee cup. In 1991, a woman sued Ciba Geigy after a ceramic coffee cup that she bought from the company broke and cut her hand. The woman claimed that the company was liable for her injury and sought $75,000 in damages. The case was dismissed by the courts, which ruled that the woman had failed to show how Ciba Geigy's had been responsible after the transaction. Anderson vs. Cryovac Inc. Our next case is Anderson vs. Cryovac Inc., a lawsuit filed by a woman who sued a packaging company over a piece of plastic wrap. In 1991, a woman sued Cryovac after she swallowed a piece of plastic wrap from one of the company's food packages and became ill. The woman claimed that the company was liable for her injury and sought $125,000 in damages. The case was dismissed by the courts, which ruled that the woman had purchased it and was responsible thereafter. McDonald vs. City of West Branch, Michigan. This case is a little different. McDonald vs. City of West Branch, Michigan, a lawsuit filed by a man who sued a city over a pothole. In 1992, a man sued the City of West Branch after he hit a pothole in his car and suffered damage to his vehicle. The man claimed that the city was liable for his damages and sought $5,000 in compensation. The case was dismissed by the courts, which ruled that the city was not responsible for the man's damages. Who run the courts? The city. Which again, it's the city, they ain't paying nobody but the cops. The case highlights the idea that some people will hold irresponsible groups responsible. McDonald's lawsuit against the City of West Branch is a reminder that the legal system can be used to address public concerns which will be ignored by the city. Hardin vs. Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company. Our next on the docket is Hardin vs. Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company, a lawsuit filed by a man who sued a railroad company over a broken guitar string. In 1887, a man sued the Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company after a broken guitar string caused him to miss a performance. The man claimed that the company was liable for his damages and sought $500 in compensation. ruled that the man's guitar strings were not the responsibility of the railroad company. The judge threw out the case. Hardin's lawsuit against the Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company might seem absurd, but it also shows how people's attitudes towards compensation have changed over time, as $500 in 1887 would be equivalent to a much larger sum today. Husseinzadeh vs. Klein. Our next case is Husseinzadeh vs. Klein, a lawsuit filed by a woman who sued a toy store owner over a demonic possession. In 2016, a woman sued a New York City toy store owner after she claimed that a cursed object purchased from the store caused her to become possessed by demons. The woman claimed that the store owner was liable for her possession and sought $7 million in damages. The courts ruled that the woman had failed to show any demon present in her presence, and the store owners had no liability over her soul. Husseinzadeh's lawsuit against the toy store owner shows how people's beliefs and superstitions can sometimes play a role in legal disputes. Evans vs. City of Berkeley. Our next and final case is Evans vs. City of Berkeley, a lawsuit filed by a man who sued a city over a lost parking space. In 2018, a man sued the city of Berkeley after he claimed that a city-run parking garage failed to save a parking space for him. The man claimed that the city was liable for his loss and sought $75,000 in damages. The case was dismissed by the courts, which ruled that the city didn't have to save a space for Mr. Evans. And there you have it, 10 of the most ridiculous lawsuits in history. These cases might seem absurd, but they serve as a reminder that the legal system can be used to address perceived wrongs in unexpected and sometimes absurd ways. Like and subscribe for more videos like this, and leave a comment below on what you think about these crazy cases. Thanks for watching.